What's up? It's Mike Mal, and you are listening to the Athletor Podcast, where we dive into the processes, mindsets, strategies of some of the most successful athletes and coaches from all walks of life. Coach Terry Steiner, how are you, sir? Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm good.
Good, man. I got a lot to unpack for this coming Olympics. I got a lot to unpack for your. How about this? Let's start with this. Your process for picking your, I shouldn't say picking your team. Your process for the women to make the team was a little bit different than men's freestyle. Was that something that you came up with on your own?
Like what part of the process, I guess?
Well, having medalists sit was one thing, but having Pan Am finalists sit who qualified the weight was not the same thing. Was that something that you thought of, or was that something that Bender and those guys kind of just?
No, I knew that to get our best people to go to the Pan Am Championships or the Pan Am Olympic qualifier was going to be a tall task because, it's different focuses, right? Coming into the Olympic trials, you can think about after the World Championships, from the World Championships forward, all that's on the athlete's mind is making the Olympic team, right? And all that's on our mind as a program is qualifying the weights, right? And so it's a different focus. And in order for the athlete to get their focus around qualifying that weight, because at that point it's not their weight yet, right? It's a class, and they're trying to secure a spot, but it may not be their spot. And to give them a little bit of an incentive, to help them along that process, that was important. And I didn't think that if we don't make it, money is one thing. You can throw money at people, but at the end of the day, I don't think the athletes are wrestling for money, right? Otherwise, they probably made a poor decision a long time ago, right?
Agree, 100%.
So I think it's more about, how can they set themselves up for success, and so allowing them to sit to the final of the trial if they qualified the weight was enough incentive to get our best people at the Pan Am Olympic qualifier. And so that's something that I pushed. It has to go through a committee. I don't make those decisions, right? I'm a part of them, and I can, bring something forward, but the committees really have to see the value in it as well. So I think it's more selling that and helping the committee and the organization see the value in what you're trying to push forward. And then it's up to them, right? At the end of the day, it's up to the organization to make that decision.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. So, but I think it was the right process.
Obviously. Obviously you have six weights that are qualified. Right. No one else in the US can say that. That's, that's pretty important, man. You're bringing a full squad 100% to Paris. That's a big deal, man.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's a relief off our shoulders right now too, right? I mean, that those weights are already qualified and done. I would not want to be going into Turkey for a lot of reasons. Number one, you're going to Turkey. The world is not that stable right now. Number two, you're going in with your back against the wall, right? And in a very hostile environment. And you're going to Europe, and which is also, I don't know if you want to do that. So to be out of that mix right now and to have everything qualified, I feel good about where we're at.
You have been, more so than Zadok and the Greco side of things, have been more camp heavy, getting the girls together than maybe men's freestyle has been. Is that still going to be true leading up to Paris?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of downtime without camp as well, but we're just not set up the same. We have RTCs, and the RTCs that we do have, I'm grateful for them. At Arizona State, at Oregon State, are our main two RTCs that are really, putting time and effort in and resources into these athletes. But we're not fully functional yet, right? We don't have a group of people to train with enough to get people ready. So I feel it's imperative for us still, even though we're starting to decentralize as a program, and I think it's inevitable with growth of the program. We're just not there yet, right? We're not there where we're fully functional as a decentralized program. And the strength has always been, since I've been here, has always been the nucleus of people together, right? And bring them together and help them raise each other up, right? And so we do have 5 camps leading into the Olympic Games. We have one next week. We start on Monday, and the first one is more of a testing and planning to make sure we all understand what the rest of the summer is going to look like for each of the Olympians and their workout partners and their personal coaches, because it'll be a little bit different this year based on where they are ranked and where do we want to be ranked in the UWW rankings going into the Olympic Games, because the top 8 people are seeded. And so we're
First time, by the way, right?
Yeah.
Like this is the first time that's happened.
Right. So we're trying to position ourselves where we want to be positioned. And there's 4 weights right now that we won't be ranked, right? Because Kennedy Blades hasn't been in there enough to be ranked. We have Amit, who is ranked at a different weight class,
Sure.
right? And so she has no ranking points at 68 kilos. We have Dom Parrish, who has some ranking. So really the people that really have some ranking positions right now that we're jockeying are 50 kilos with Sarah Hildebrandt, 57 with Helen Maroulis, 62 with Kayla Miracle. Those are the weights really that we're playing with and seeing, so their schedule may look a little bit different than Kennedy and Amit and Dom.
So, and please forgive me. I want to make sure that we're understand. Like, so this is the inside baseball stuff that I don't think a lot of people even under. Joel Shaw's laughing right now because he's like, I don't know what you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So, okay. So Amit coming down, Kennedy making the team over Adeline, and also Dom Parrish not have. So does that mean that you're gonna? So does that mean you're gonna compete them to get them ranking points so that they can be ranked or seeded?
Well, those 3 won't be ranked, even if they go to the last ranking event and win it. They won't gain enough ranking points to be ranked in the top 8.
So it doesn't matter. Like those girls won't wrestle.
So it doesn't matter. They're going to be drawn in somewhere, right? They're going to be a bad draw for someone coming into the Olympic Games, right? The others have some ranking, and so which side of the bracket do we want to be on from certain people, right? Do we want to be on a certain side of the bracket, with, let's say at 50 with Sasaki and Hildebrandt? Do we want to be on a certain side of the bracket as her, try to get to the opposite side? And, we have some control over it, that we can control some of it. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We're going to get the gold medal anyways. So whether we meet them in the semis or the finals, that's where we meet them, right? But if we can control it, that's what we're going to try to do. So the last ranking event is the beginning of June in Budapest. So that's the last time that those rankings can be adjusted, and that's the only place they can be adjusted yet. So we'll have some people that may go to Budapest, and others. There's 2 other competitions, pre-Olympic events that we may attend, and that's Poland and or Spain. And so those have no ranking variability in those tournaments, but we may send some.
So if I'm reading correctly, what you're saying, the girls that have enough to gain by going to that ranking event should probably go to Budapest, but the others will probably wind up going to Spain, or where was the other one you said?
Spain or Poland.
Poland, right.
Poland is like the third week of June, and Spain is the first week of July. So then you also got to look at, okay, how much time do we want between the Olympic Games and the last competition? So we're kind of looking at that too. So we'll have, that's what next week is for, really, to sit down with the personal coaches, the athlete, and their training partner, and really kind of map out the summer of what it's going to look like for each weight category, and we'll figure that out.
Any type of acclimation camp going on? I mean, obviously it's in Europe, but it's it's Paris. It's pretty close. It's not like a terrible acclimation, right? Like Tokyo's that's a tough go. That's a big old go. Um, does the proximity of the event factor into your look at the acclimation camp as well?
Yeah, no, so we did this a year in advance. So last year we acclimated for the World Championships in the region of Normandy, France,
Mm.
and to see how it was and test their facilities and
And to make sure that you got good
staffing and,
wine in, of
getting
course.
what we wanted, right?
Sure.
From that space. And so we went in and we asked them to make some adjustments. Um, if we were going to come back, we wanted a few things different and things like that. They've honored those, and so that's where we'll be going. Not just women's freestyle, but men's freestyle and Greco will also be going into Normandy. So what we'll do is our schedule kind of is we'll leave the US on July 22nd. We'll arrive France on the 23rd. On the 24th, the athletes will have processing and getting their gear and all the team processing stuff. On the 25th, they'll have a press conference, the Olympic press conference. On the 26th is opening ceremonies in Paris. And then on the 27th, we'll leave Paris and go to the region of Normandy for camp. And we'll stay there until the second. And then the first three people that wrestle, because women's wrestling covers the span of the Olympic wrestling, right? So
Mhm.
I believe freestyle is first, Greco's second, or vice versa.
Right, but they're sprinkled in women's, right?
We're all the way through. We're one person
Right.
starts each
Hmm.
day. So our first three people will come in back to Paris on the second, and then the other three will come back in on the 5th of August, and then we start competing on the 5th, our first person. So that's kind of how we're laid out and kind of our general schedule for this summer once we get to France.
Do you do you oh, this is hard to um this is hard for me to ask. It's like I know that there is an extra added layer of pressure in Olympic years. And it's obvious from the athletes all the way up to Bender, man. Like I spoke to Bender not too long ago, and he's like, "It's an Olympic year," and I'm like, I know." Like everything kind of gets put in the orbit of the Olympic year. How do you deal with the fact that there is like there? This is the finality of it. There is a bookend to a training cycle. There is a bookend to a quad, but that also means that's the last chance. Like that is the last. Like I don't know if Helen can go for another 4 years.
Right.
And if she can't, there's a good chance that this is her last Olympic Games, and it's going to be hard. Seeing like, man, she's been a mainstay in this sport, and she's dragged women's wrestling up with her. So how do you deal with the finality of the end of the cycle that is the Olympic Games?
Well, I think we all know what's at stake, right? I mean, we all know what the Olympic Games means. That's why these athletes are wrestling, right, and putting the time and energy in, and this is where they get the notoriety of who they are and what who they've become through this sport, right? And is the Olympic Games. So we all know that. I think but I think it's still putting things in their place. We can only control certain things, right? So let's control the things that we can control, right? And that's everything from our training plan to, who are we keeping around us? Who do we want around us for the summer? What are the distractions that we can give to someone else, right? And I think that's the biggest thing with the Olympic Games is the athletes, there can become a lot of distractions, right? With just the logistical things for their friends and family, right?
Yeah.
So, that's what one of the things we'll do next week is we'll designate one person from their family that's who we're contacting.
You are the liaison.
Yeah, we are not gonna talk to Kennedy Blades about where her family's staying and
Right.
what issues they may be
She
having.
can't deal with that. Right.
She can't deal with that, and we don't want her to deal with that, right? We want her to keep her focus on the task at hand, and so though I think if we can control those things, I think the media and the press, everyone wants a piece of these athletes right now, right?
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, right after the Olympic Games, if they haven't won, nobody cares. Nobody cares, and that's just the
Nobody
reality,
cares.
right? Now, if
Yeah.
they win and then, if you win, then you'll have plenty of opportunity afterward as well, right? But because of the hype of the Olympics, that's what comes with it, and I think it's learning how to manage that, right? And I think I've learned a lot, right? And the hard way, I think of how to help the athletes decipher through what's really important and what are the things that we really need to be at and attend and be a part of, and what are the things that is kind of the fluff out there that we can put on hold, or we can give it to someone else, right? And to deal with. And I think that's, helping them through that, knowing what to expect from the games, because everyone's asking them of their time and their attention and right now. And that's, and it's easy to say yes, right? It's easy to get caught up in the hype of it and we should to a certain extent, I think. I think that's part of the Olympic Games and
That's part of the fun. Right.
part
Yeah.
of the fun is understanding that you're pretty important, right? And
Mm.
people are looking up to you, and you do have a stand right now that people are listening, right? And you can help yourself and probably help this sport and help the country and the organization in a lot of ways. But the bottom line is, if you win the gold medal, you can help us for a long time,
Mm.
right? And I think that's what it's about, right?
Mm. Man, so many different directions I want to go with this, but
Yeah.
what did you learn? How? I mean, you said you learned the hard way. Give me an example of an instance. I know that you don't have to name names, but it'd be okay if you did.
Yeah.
Like maybe Helen was distracted, or and you learned over the last couple decades to go, hey, we don't need to be talking to the press right now. We don't need to be doing interviews and that kind of stuff.
Right. I think, if I go back to Rio in 2016, I think Adeline had a lot of, I would say, a lot of people that wanted her attention, right? And
Mm.
she was excited about that. And she was wanted to help and wanted to be a part of growing this and being a good part of it. And so, but all of a sudden it's 48 hours before competition and you still have people hounding, right? And you have an agent that is really trying to not only help make Adeline's name, but probably make their own name.
Sure.
And they're not saying no to anything, right? And I think at the end of the day, I think it did affect us, right?
Mm.
It did affect our focus and maybe even put some more pressure on us because of all of that. And so I think from that experience, I think, if you look to Tokyo, right, where there was zero distraction, right, because of COVID, there
Mm.
was zero. We were on lockdown, right?
Mm.
Look at the performances.
Sure.
I
Sure.
mean, they were pretty solid,
Mm.
through women's freestyle and men's freestyle. They were pretty solid performances. And yeah, we didn't win everything, but the performances were there, right? And
100%.
right? And so I think we learned a lot that, maybe it's a little bit better to go light on all the distraction, right? And put some things to the side that we can deal with afterwards and talk about afterwards. So I think it's helping them through that and helping them see that, and not just taking it from me, but also taking it from, past Olympians that have been through this. I know how Adeline right now can help this Olympic team in numerous ways, right? In numerous ways. She can be a strong advocate and really a help to all of these athletes because she's been through this. And we have some with Sarah and Helen as well. But I think that, you know, Adeline's presence around the team right now and just giving them the little tidbits of information can be of great help, right? And so maybe she's not the person wrestling, but she may very well be the reason for a great performance, right? And so helping her understand that.
I'm curious, as a national team coach, where you're, maybe not around these athletes all day, and maybe don't know, what motivates them, or what upsets them, or what's a distraction to them. How do you kind of get a grasp of the athletes that are on the team, both from a performance standpoint, but also as it relates to these things that are maybe off the mat?
Well, I mean, for most of this team, I've been around quite a bit, right? I mean, they've been around camps, they've been around the program, the development. This didn't happen overnight for some of them. I mean, they've been around for quite a while, so I feel like we have a pretty good relationship. Yeah, I'm not around some of them on a daily basis, but there's a lot of communication, right? You get a sense of what helps them and what hinders them, and that's just the communication with the athlete themselves, the personal coaches, and that's where it does take a village, right? I mean, this is not the Terry Steiner show, right? I mean, this is a group of people working for the benefit of an athlete, and making sure we're all aligned to the same vision and how we want to go forward, right? And that's really, we'll just make sure that we understand that next week, right? And make sure that we're all on the same page and that we're all in agreement, and that we're going to move forward together. And that's, that's the job right now, right? Because we're not with them every day. Some of the athletes we are, some of them we're not.
Sarah lives in the spring still.
Sarah lives in the Springs. Is here probably 80% of the time.
Okay.
So those two, and then, I mean, Dom and Kayla and Helen, I mean, and Kennedy, I mean, they're around often, right? And so it just depends.
Right, but you can make one phone call to one place and get info on, I mean, they're all training in Tempe, right? So it's not hard to keep them on the same page as y'all.
Yeah, well, Dom's up at Oregon State.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
And then Helen just moved back to Tempe, so she's there now. So, we between Coach Perry, Coach Pritz, Coach Cejudo is down there, Coach Larkin, are all helping kind of. I mean, I think you talk to those guys. I mean, they understand what's needed with those athletes, and Nate Engel does a great job with Dom, and we have a good relationship. Coach Izzy is here helping with Sarah, so and then Sarah McMahon is with Hamid, so I mean, we have good relationships, and those are people that have been around for a long time, and so I think we understand each other, and I think it's just dropping the ego, right? It's this is the athlete's journey, and we're a part of it, and we're here to help them, and we're here to move them forward, and it doesn't matter who gets the credit. Let's just go get the success, right?
Right.
The athlete deserves the credit. They're the ones out there. We're just here as kind of that front line, right? Giving them what they need, and things like that. So that's what we're trying to be.
Hey, you know, you mentioned it earlier. I mean, and the proof is right in front of you, as they say. Arizona State has a regional training center. Oregon State has a regional training center. Is this something? And the three girls on the team train in Tempe. One trains in, you know, in Corvallis. But these are. It's obvious that is probably going to be the direction that we go. Is that correct?
Well, I think so, but I think it's hard to know right now with the NIL, right?
Yeah.
The NIL and the transfer portal, what that's done to the college programs. I mean, there's probably going to be some shifting of resources, right? I mean, and not going just to RTC athletes, but to NIL athletes to get them in there, right?
Sure.
And I've heard it from a lot of coaches, right? That how are we moving forward? Maybe adjusted after this Olympic Games, right? And so they can survive as programs, right? And they can do what they want to do as programs because we're still kind of just a subsidiary of those programs, right?
College programs, right?
And they're using their, really their donors and their the people around their program to fund those positions and for those athletes. So the reason why the RTCs just aren't fully functional yet for us is we don't have a college program behind it, right? We don't have a women's program at Oregon State where there's 30 girls to wrestle with, right? We have 3 or 4 girls there. At Arizona State, we have 3, 4 girls around that program, right? There's not like there's 20 other people or 30 other people to train with every day. Yeah, they can go some with the guys, but I'm talking a women's program.
It's very different.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's so different. And I'm not saying that, guys can in the practice room can help us a lot, right?
Sure, but that's not the goal.
But eventually, I mean, to make it really fully functional, like look at the Nittany Lion RTC or the club out there. I mean, they have a group of college kids to work with and train with every day, and then they have a group of elite, caliber athletes at the senior level training in the RTC. That's a fully functional group, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
fully funded too. Like, let's call it what it is. Like, they're a self-contained unit.
Yeah.
There, that's a big deal.
Yeah, but I think that even there it's going to shift to, are we paying these guys whatever they're getting paid, right? Just to come in as RTC athletes, or are we paying athletes to get them to Penn State University, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the NIL, and I think there has to be, there's going to probably be some shifting of just how they allocate those resources a little bit, probably in a little bit different way, I would think, as it moves forward right now, because right now it seems like recruiting a high school athlete is kind of a secondary thought, right? And the first is like, who was the All-American last year that we can bring into our program and help us, right? I mean, within college athletic, I mean, it's just
tough. That's a tough road.
It's a tough road, right? And so we're not involved in that, but
right. But you are as a result, you have to deal with it
a little bit. Yeah, we're gonna, and then now with Sunkist Kids Wrestling Club closing down, and that's also going to affect us as well a little bit, and how are we going to adjust from that, and so funding is always a part of the picture, right?
Yeah.
And so it's always a part of the picture. So we just have to, I guess, kind of just play those cards as we are handed them, right?
Yeah. Did you speak to Art? Did you talk to him about closing down Sunkiss? Because from what I understand, he's just he's tired. Like, he's been in this for like 40 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's 50 years he's been doing it.
50 years, jeez Louise.
He's 81 years old. He said, by the time the Olympics come around, I'll be 82. And he said, when do you walk away? He said, I don't know how many years I have left. And he said, there's things that we want to do as a family. And at some point, whether, is this time right? Or is it the next Olympics in LA right? Or, I mean, when do you walk? right? And I think it was just time that they just thought as a family that, let's spend these years with each other, right? And spend our energies in a different way. And the sport of wrestling is grateful for the Art Martori and the Martori family, right?
Sure.
And what they've done for this sport and so many individuals around.
Yeah. Okay. I got a couple more for you. I talk. How do we? So there is a movement to bring women's wrestling to the college ranks, and it's wonderful. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around the fact that there are so many open coaching positions. How do we deal with that? Because it's great that we're expanding, but it's almost like, hey, relax. We need to have good quality coaches at these college programs. So how do we deal with filling these positions, number one, but filling them with solid individuals as well?
Well, and I think, most of the time right now when college programs start or they say they're going to start a program, we're getting calls on, which females are ready for this. Well, bottom line is there's not a lot, right?
Right.
Not a lot. I just don't think we want to throw people into a position that they're not ready for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just setting them up for failure, right? Instead, I think there's a lot of men who have been around these programs, right? Who are second, third, fourth assistant coaches, volunteer assistants, RTC coaches that really could have a huge impact. And I think put them in a position for 3 to 5 years, I don't care, longer if they want, but put them in a position where they can mentor some female athletes and get some females on their staff, right? And help them understand the bigger role of coaching other than just showing technique, right? About the fundraising, about dealing with administration, about practice plans, about periodization and things like that. I mean, because most of our athletes, are coming out and they've been great athletes and great part of programs, but they don't have that coaching experience, right? And they don't understand the day-to-day and this and that. And even coming from an athlete to a coach, it's a completely different focus, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a selfish focus, which it needs to be as an athlete, to a completely unselfish position where you're helping people, constantly there for them and trying to move them forward. So I think that's my idea is how do we do this is we put men in some positions, females if they're ready. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, we put men in some positions and have a couple females on their staff and they just mentor them and they bring them along and whether they move on to different programs or whether they take over that existing program. I mean, I think that's how we can really move this forward better than anything. I don't think that going, all the coaching courses and things like that, I think we need those things. But,
Oh, they're a
it's
small
not like
piece to the
it's
puzzle.
not like, quick teach me Russian, right? I mean, you can't learn coaching overnight. And most of us, I mean, even before I came into this position, and this position is a lot different position than a college position, but I was an assistant coach at the college level for 8 years, right? Before I jumped into a head position. And I think we're so quick to put people in head positions and really, I'm not sure we're doing them a service,
Yeah,
right?
no, you're kind of setting them up to fail, really, because I mean, just writing down a practice plan is 1/16 of your job, and
Yeah.
and that might be being generous. I want to take it a step even below the college wrestling. What would you say to a dad of a 12, 13, 14-year-old young lady that's starting to get into this sport? What example would you point to in terms of this is how many matches you should probably get? This is how much weight you should cut. Should you stay back in high school? Like these are all things that like you see on the boys end of things. And now I'm starting to see with the young girls. right? Like this is the first time when I moved to Poway in 22. This is the first time I've seriously trained women in my entire life. Just wasn't as big of a female wrestling culture in New Jersey, and in Texas there was just the area that we were in certainly wasn't the biggest for wrestling. So this is my first foray kind of into women's wrestling, and I'm finding that the answer to some of the questions that I had that I was posed by some of the dads changes from women. Okay, like they can compete more. Like they can compete more and more frequently than I found the young boys can. They just don't get burnt out on quite as much. Weight cutting's a different thing. They're just not going to cut weight, and that's fine. Like I don't think that they should before the age of 15. But then like I got girls that are in 8th grade and their dads like wanted to hold them back like their brothers were. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the best idea. Some of these young girls are even better. Like, let's get them through. We got to get them through. So is there an example that you can point to of like, all right, this girl did it right. And this is the way, given my choice, I would have all of our athletes come up through the sport.
I don't know if there's an example that I can use, but I can say that culture is going to be a big part of it, right? I mean, the culture you put around the athlete is going to be a big part of whether they're happy, whether they're successful, whether they're going to do this for a long time, right? And you're just trying to cram results out of them, right? And you've got to build the culture where this has to be more than just winning, right? And it has to be about community. It has to be about friendships and teamwork and a group of people, right? I mean, I think that female athletes definitely feed off that more, right? And I think that has to be a part of it. And I think just, be quick to just, stick to the process of it. Stick to the process of the fundamentals of winning instead of just going out and getting hundreds of matches, right? I still think that eventually that's going to take a toll on an athlete, right? And so I just think in the US we're so quick to we want things right now, right? And instead of just letting this be a process, right? Let this, let them enjoy this journey a little bit more than maybe we have. And so I think that has to be a big part of it. I don't know if that's a very good answer, but I think that we're just too quick for results. We're a results oriented society and we want results. And I know results are important because that's how opportunity comes as well. But are they having fun with it is the biggest thing. They'll make adjustments. They'll listen. There's no doubt in my mind that female athletes will listen to what they're being told, right? Sure. And they'll try to comply to what a coach is saying. But I think that the coach really has to be thoughtful in that, and because I think they can be a hindrance to the athlete as well, right? And a lot of times lead them down the wrong road and be worried so much about success and getting to all the tournaments and this and that. I think I would compete less and do more competition and do more training where you have more team atmosphere and having a lot of team camaraderie and this and that, just that social cohesion type activities more around the women's team than anything, right? And
yeah, that's as you see the numbers of female athletes go up across the country that are wrestling. I think you will see a lot more of that.
Well, and just how girls, I mean, why is it growing like this? Because a girl will go out and talk to 10 of her friends.
Yeah.
5 of them will come out and try out for the team, right? A guy will going to wrestling practice and they won't talk to anyone, right? I mean,
Fair.
so the girls will be your recruiters. They'll get people into the program, right?
Mm.
And get people around the program, and their moms will do the same thing once they see the value in what their kid is doing and how it's helped them, right? I
Mm.
mean, men just aren't like that. We just
No.
don't talk much about it, right? Until we see success. And the women, it's not about that. It's about how they're enjoying wrestling practice and how they're enjoying this new wrestling team that they, started on. They don't know anything about, but man, they're having fun. They're coming home. They're more confident. They're, in who they are and what they're doing. And I mean, that's what sells people on this sport, I think, from the women's side. And the female athletes are our best recruiters, right? It's just put them out there in front of people, right?
Yeah.
And then they can sell this. And so I think that, that's what, I would get the moms more involved, and I would put the dads on the side and get the moms more involved, right?
Yeah, good luck, number one, because the dads are generally the ones that grew up wrestling in high school, and they're I mean, this goes across both genders. It's like they're probably too involved at all to begin with, in men's wrestling, women's wrestling. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. All right, you brought up process, and boy, Japan has a very good process. Their system for training, from what I understand, is second to none. What have you heard about their training? I mean, because you hear horror stories at some point, right? Like these girls are, they're taking a ruler to their hands, and like all these, like, I don't know if they're myths, I don't know if they're true, but what are you hearing about? Because they're quite obviously the gold standard right now. We got to run them down. How are we learning from their process, from their system?
Well, I think it comes down to, just the upbringing in general, right? There's a discipline, there's a structure, there's a loyalty, there's you know, within how they're growing up, there's a respect, there's all these different things that they bring to the table and they bring to the wrestling room, right? It's not teaching them once they get in the sport. They've already brought that. They're going to respect their coach and who's in front of them. They're going to listen to, the training philosophies of being disciplined and being structured, and they're not, I think they're not going to go out so much on their own, especially at a younger age, right? Where they're going to follow what the coach is saying, for a long time before they're ever going to ask, can I do something different? Right. I mean, everyone's learning the same things, right? And so, and I think that's probably where they get ahead a little bit, right? Because we have so many different ways, but they also have a unique, for the most part, they're all built the same, right? They all have a low center of gravity. They have strong legs and good flexibility, and they have quickness. And you look through the Japanese, look at their Olympic team. I mean, they're all really have the same physical characteristics,
Mm-hmm.
right? Body type. So you can train them the same way, right? And so they have a little bit of an advantage there, right?
Never thought about that.
Where we're not like that. I mean, we have Kennedy Blades, who's,
6'2".
6'2", and has a completely different style than an Amit Elar,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're never going to look alike, and they're never going to wrestle the same, and it's just not. So I think it's different because we're dealing with an influx of people from all different, regions and cultures and body types and everything like that we have to, train different a little bit too. And so I don't think that makes us bad, but I think it's, we can get out of focus really easy too, right? And what we should be focusing on, and not just looking at what the next person is doing, right? It can make us stronger because we can get a better, I think, a balanced style of wrestling, but sometimes,
Boy, it'd be nice if you could just teach one set of things.
yeah, hey, we're doing high crotches and single legs and that's it. And
Yeah,
you're shooting and, um, but we just can't do that. So we have to, make adjustments.
sure.
So that's different. I think that's different, but I think, they just bring that different respect and discipline to the table as well. Where I think a lot of times in our wrestling programs and in our sports in the US, we're teaching that through the sport.
Mm-hmm.
We're teaching respect, we're teaching discipline, we're teaching structure and how that can help you in life.
That
They
doesn't have that goes without
they already
saying.
have that in life,
Yeah.
and they're bringing it into wrestling, right? And
Yeah.
so I think it's a little bit different.
It's wild. Yeah, I agree with you. Go ahead, Joel.
One of the things we've been seeing, a lot this, past few weekends is a lot of, younger high school kids having success at the senior level. And I know that Mike, he really says that, we got to normalize this so it's not such a big deal. I'm curious to get your thoughts on if this is a greater area of focus as you look to the future of USA Wrestling.
Well, I think for sure. I mean, we know with the numbers, I mean, when we grow from 36,000 to 53,000 in 1 year, we almost doubled, right? I mean, a 50% growth rate almost there. I mean, we're gonna have people popping up that we don't know, where we didn't see them before, we don't know. I always say we may not even know our 2028 Olympians yet.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I can look, we have seen a very similar cast of characters since Rio. Let's be completely honest, right? I don't think that that's going to be the case in 2028 going into LA.
Yeah. I mean, look at someone like, Elena McCoy, who ended up third at the trials, but look, I mean, she popped up out of nowhere. I mean, all of a sudden she won everything, right?
Right.
Nobody knew about her. We didn't know about her. The rest of the world didn't know about her. All of a sudden she is beating everyone in the world.
Sure.
So there's going to be people like that. I mean, even really, I mean, we knew, we've heard things about Kennedy and Kylie Welker, and all of a sudden in 2021, that was 2021, right? That's 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right? 4 years ago, they weren't much on the radar, right?
Sure.
I mean, Kennedy Blades and Kylie Welker, yeah, they were there. They were winning some things, but they weren't that much on the radar. All of a sudden, they just popped up, right? They just popped up in 2021 and were second to, Tamara and Adeline in the trial, but they opened some eyes, right? And so, I think moving forward, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to have some superstars in the making that are all of a sudden just going to pop up and just have some natural gifts and then you put them in the right training environment, you can accomplish a lot, right?
Be careful what you wish for, sir, because something tells me that as the talent pool becomes more dense, we might see girls starting to transfer to different countries. I mean, it's obviously happened at the men's level, right? I mean, that's why we're not qualified at two different weight classes because Americans knocked us out, So it's like, golly,
Yeah.
is that something that you think about?
Oh, and there's no doubt it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen, but that also shows how strong we are then,
Yep.
right? And if we're having these people going and making other Olympic teams for other federations and other Olympic committees, that shows the strength of the American program as well. So I think that, I think we can take that as kind of we're going to lose some people, but if we're that strong, then we're also sitting in a pretty good position as well.
You're doing the right thing.
Yeah, we're developing, right? We're developing people along the way and putting people in the right situations to be developed, right? And so
Sure.
I think that's the bigger thing that we need to, we got to focus on what we can control, right? And we're not going to, hold someone out because they have another heritage, and they're coming from something else. We're not going to hold them out of camps, right? I mean, we're going to, everyone who qualifies and, starts to be in our top 3-4 people at a younger age, at U7, U15, U17, U20 level, and we're going to wrap our arms around them, right, and put them in the same room together and let them build each other up and sharpen each other, and whoever rises up, right? I mean, and so in that process, yeah, we're probably going to be developing someone else too. But I also
someone else. When you mean you mean someone else's athlete.
Yeah, someone else's athlete. But
sure,
we need to do that, I mean, and we do the same thing now. We have, coming into the May camp, we have 3 countries that are asking to be a part of our May camp and at certain weight classes. And, we also need that, because we're also, if you look at Asia and you look at Europe, they're kind of all these countries working together, right? And they're training with each other, and we're kind of out here on an island. And if we don't use Canada and we don't use the Pan American countries and we don't use other countries that want to come in and give our athletes a piece of that and a taste of what does a European athlete feel like? What does a Asian athlete feel like? They have different styles, right? And so we need to also give our own athletes some pieces of that. Is that helping their athlete? Probably.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Probably, but it's also helping us. So I think we need to focus on how is this going to help us, and we need to get more out of the experience than they are when they come into our camp and our setting in our room, and just make sure that we're diligent about what can we learn from these people and why are they here, and if they can help us, and then why wouldn't we have them in there, right? And it doesn't mean that if we bring someone in at 68 kilos, it doesn't mean they have to be wrestling on meat the whole time.
No, definitely
they can be wrestling with Kennedy, they can be wrestling with Kayla, they can be wrestling with our number 2s and 3s and 4s. I mean, they can be helping our U23 team, whatever. I mean, so I think we need to grasp that. I think that's the one thing that I learned very quickly is it's a lot cheaper for us to have teams here than and put a bunch of our athletes around them than to send 40 of our athletes overseas. That's a big cost.
Makes
right?
sense.
And so economically, it just makes more sense to bring people in. And then we've done it, that's the one thing I've done all the time. I don't hide from that. I think it helps us, right? No, I think there's a time and a place that this is only a time for the American athlete, and we're going to focus on this. But I think the other camps, I think it's important for us to mix in.
No doubt. Okay, we're running out of time. Let's do some quick hitters. Don't think about these questions, just answer them. All right, here we go. Coach Steiner, what is the best wrestling shoe of all time?
The best wrestling what?
Shoe.
I have to say Nike, don't I?
No.
No, well, that's our sponsor right now.
I know what it is. I'm just saying, no, you don't.
I grew up in ASICs, right? I grew up in ASICs, but I do like some shoes out there right now. I like the Scrap Life shoe is a very comfortable shoe.
Okay.
The shoe, they're giving a lot of variety out there. I mean, it's hard to go against them, but I would say if I have to answer that, what's comfortable on my foot is Scrap Life.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I think that might be our first one, huh?
Yeah. What model Scrap Life you wear?
I have no idea.
Whatever one they gave me.
I got it from one of our athletes who's sponsored by them, and they got me a shoe, and I wear it sometimes.
Nice. Okay. I'm gonna add, by the way, Joel, I'm gonna add one more question to this list. So get ready. Who's the best pound for pound wrestler in the world right now? I didn't say gender and I didn't say style.
That's a hard one.
That's a really hard one.
That's a really hard one. I mean, it's hard to go against like a Tazadinov, right? Who shook up the world last year.
Which was fun to watch.
But I haven't seen him enough, and the consistency of it. I mean, I'm not going to give anyone in the women's a credit outside the U.S., so I'm not going to do that.
But I will, because it's Yui Sasaki and you know it.
Yeah, but she also shows some, she's tough. There's no doubt. I mean,
She's tough. She
won
hadn't given
everything.
up a takedown in a long time, coach.
She did at
Oh, did she get taken down or was it step out?
Asians. She got scored 4 points on, so
Okay. Okay.
8-4. But yeah, Sasaki's a tough girl. I think we got someone tougher.
I would tend to agree. Listen, if there's one person that is going to knock her off the
We'll
throne,
give her the credit right now. We'll give her the credit.
that's fine. That's fine. And it makes it even better when Sarah wins. Okay. Only 4, got to be American. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling?
American, female, any.
Any.
That's well, Jordan Burroughs going to have to be on there. Adeline Gray going to have to be on there.
2 more.
John Smith.
Okay.
Uh,
4th one's always the tough one.
I'm going to go with. I'll go with Kyle Snyder.
Oh, I like that. I like that one. We're getting more Snyders more recently. That's really good. All right, last one. You got a magic wand. You can change one thing about the sport of wrestling. What would it be?
I would change our whole system to freestyle and Greco.
Oh,
Right.
Done.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I just think I grew up in folk style. I love folk style, but from my position now, and I look at the infrastructure we have, we are the envy of the world, right? That we have our athletic programs tied to our academic institutions, right? We're the envy of the world.
Sure.
And if we would just change our mindset, the Penn States would still have the rivalries with Ohio State and Oklahoma State and Iowa and Iowa State and all those programs, right? They would still have that. It would just be in freestyle or Greco, right? I mean, I just think that if we could change that, the U.S. would dominate the world. And they already, we already do well, right?
Yeah.
But I think if we completely switch to freestyle in our high school and our collegiate systems, and Greco, I'm going to put Greco in there because I think that there's a place there, right? And I think that we could be really, really down.
I would tend to agree with you. Okay, Coach Steiner, all the best luck going into this Olympic Games. I'm very excited for the results that I'm sure that you are going to produce. Is there anything else? Is there a way that people can get a hold of you, like on Instagram or something like that, if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I have Instagram. I don't even know what my name is on Instagram. Terry Steiner.
How about an email?
T Steiner at usawrestling.org, right?
You go.
Get me there. No, I think we have a very strong team, right? And the Olympic trials are my least favorite competition ever, right? Because these girls become like daughters, right? They're like family, and now all of a sudden, a lot of them are disappointed in the result and the outcome. But I hope that they also see that whether they're on this team or not, they're a part of it, right? And they're gonna feel that pride, and they're gonna, whether they're on their way out of the sport, and hopefully we keep them involved as coaches, or they're on their way up, to make the next teams. I mean, they are a part of this program, and the success that we have this summer, they can take pride in, and understand that they were in that realm, and so I feel very good about our team. I think it's a very strong team, right? And I think we have people around the team that can make us even better, right? And help in that process. And I hope they see that. I hope they see the value in that. right? And things don't always end how we want them to. Not many careers end,
on top, like John,
up or where you want to be, right? I mean, you look at people like Adeline, you look at people like David Taylor, and I don't know if they're done or not, right?
No, I know we're not putting any words in their mouths,
but I mean, look what they've done for this sport. Look what and so I hope they understand, and I hope they hold their head high, and they understand that they're a huge part of the process, the process and the outcome this summer, right? They're a huge part of where we're at as an organization and as a country, and they need to take some of that ownership and feel some pride in that, and so I hope they understand that it's a lot more than just having that gold medal around your neck, right? It's about what you've done in your corner of the world, and those people, the two I've mentioned, there's a lot more, are a huge piece of this whole puzzle. Right?
Understood. Awesome, Coach. Thank you so much. I will talk to you very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, don't go anywhere. Before you hit that next button, if you enjoyed listening to this episode, do us a huge favor. Click that subscribe button, and if you're so inclined, leave a review and share it.
What you want to know, man? Welcome to the show.